Now let's say that we want to change variable, so that you understand what we call a variable. Variable can be changed. Let's say that I want to change this var1 to another name. Let's say that let's change it to, let's use object dot, then we call this name var1. You can see that IntelliJ highlighted it for you to know that it's the same name that we are calling. This is what we are calling. Then let's set it equals to class variable. So we set it to class variable. Then in that essence, we can see now that this, sorry, we did not put our, so when we print out this now, when we print it out again, let's call it our obj dot var1. Now let's print it out. We can see here that it's changed. So when we talk about variables, they are just used to store numbers, to store values, but they can be changed later on. They can be manipulated. So that is why we say that is a name storage that our program can manipulate. So they can easily manipulate it later on. So if we print it out again, when this one changed, everything have changed. So let's print it out again with obj1 dot var1 and object2 dot var1. Let's run it here. We see that both three of them printed class variable. So that is what we call a static variable. A static variable is stored with static keyword. So a static variable has a static keyword. So we saw that static variables are created when the program starts and are destroyed once the program ends. So let's discuss the next one. Let's discuss the next one, which is, let's talk about instance variable. So let's talk about the instance variable. Instance variables. So let's just copy some things here so that we'll just, because I want us to understand, that is what I want to use. Just want to use the same examples. Let's put it here. So this is an instance variable. So unlike the static variable, here now when we print this out, let's print it out. When we print this out, we got our instance variable. When we print it out with object2, object1 and object2, we got an instance variable, which we also got the same here, the same result when we printed it out. Now unlike static variable, when we changed the variable 1 here, it affected everything, all objects. But in instance variable, when you create a new object, automatically only the object received that variable. So when the object changed, only one object changed, the rest remains the same. So let's just call our object, let's use object2 this time, and call our var2. Then let's assign a new variable to there. Now let's print it out. Let's just pick all this here since we're just giving it something. Now let's print it out. We can see that it was only this object 2 that was affected when we changed it here. So an instant variable, unlike a static variable which affects all variables once one object is changed, instant variable affects only one particular object which is changed. So each object of the class have its own copy of the instance variable. So they are assigned, each of them have the same copy of the instance variable. So only that one which is changed is allowed to change. So let us discuss the third one, which is, so we talk about local variables. Let's call it local variables. Local variable. Now I will just say just two things, specific things about local variables. Local variables are declared in method, constructors, or blocks. Then secondly, local variables are visible only within the declared method, constructor, or blocks. Those are the two specific things about local variables. So one thing that you have to learn about local variables. Let's use these two examples. One, let's create a variable here. Public void method. Now this is a method. This is how we create a method. Now let's create a local variable here. Let's call it string variable 3 is equals to, let's call it our local variable. Let's print it out. Don't forget, I've explained before that without a main method, we will always be unable to run any program. Now this is our method. Let us create our main method here. This is our main method. Let's say that let's create an object of the method. We have been creating an object, so let's create an object here of this. Let's call local variable object is equals to new local variable, and let's call our var3. When we call our var3, you notice that what it gave us an error saying that we have to create a local variable for the var3. That is that the variable that was created in this method is not visible to the main method, so it's only visible within the method. So for us to access this var3, we have to call it with our object. We have to call the var3 with our object. So let's call it here and say we say obj dot method. So we can only access this var3 by using our object, which is created from our local variable. So we access it. So when we access it, we can now print this out. So when we call this method, it will print out our var3. Then we call the method. now we see our var3 printed out. So it is unlike our instance variable. So for example, maybe we have another variable here. Let's call this our, or let's use an int. Let's call it our num1 is equals to, let's call it 20. Sorry, we move it up outside the method. So we call them here now. This is our, this is an instance variable. This is not this is our instance variable. It's not a static variable. Now we can actually access this instance variable by using system.out.println. Then we call our object dot then num1. We see that we can access our instance variable using this, but we cannot access it. We cannot access our local variable using that same method, our var3. It will say that we should create a local variable for the var3. That is all about these three types of variable. So thank you guys for joining me. I hope that you understand this very well. Don't worry, areas, our integer, our others will be touched in our lessons to come. So till then, don't forget to subscribe, like and share, help others. So thank you guys. God bless you. Highly appreciate your time. Thanks.